That's good to hear. Right, we're recording and you're recording. So, Sacha, I was expecting to have a completely different chat with you today. But after the diabolical pantomime that we were subjected to in the world, I've hardly slept, subjected to a lot of abuse. And, you know, I've been looking forward to speaking to you today, this morning. How are you feeling?
Very, very good indeed. Not surprised by what unfolded yesterday. As you know, we conducted a live broadcast simultaneous to the inauguration theatre.
Yes,
we had
that saved me.
Well, we had 20,000 people on our live feed watching, and we only announced the show an hour or so before. So we did no marketing, no publicity. It was syndicated from us, so we don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people were watching our feed live. What we do know is that we received a lot of commentary from thousands and thousands and thousands of people during the broadcast, and we know that we were deplatformed about an hour after.
Yes, yeah,
by the usual Silicon Valley conspirators. All of that bodes fairly well, because all of that sits firmly in our camp. The comments on YouTube, on the mainstream media's catchment videos on YouTube, were all slating what was going on, anti-Biden, pro-Trump. So they were also halted, all of those commentaries on the YouTube videos of the mainstream media. So go figure. We know that increasingly it's proving out that 80% thereabouts, in my view, 75%, most pundits claim, I think it was higher, closer to 80% of America voted for Trump in what was absolutely the biggest landslide victory in history.
100 million.
No question about that. And the mobilization of 65,000+ troops and 2,000 federal marshals in Washington, District of Columbia. All of that stuff actually consolidates the position that we are seeing a sea change. And again, for the people who are attacking you, and let me just address those imbeciles for a moment, none of them would be able to hold up an argument for longer than 3 minutes about why they believe they've won, and that the truth community have not won, or the Q community have not won. I'm not a Q merchant, as you know, but I absolutely know that the geometry of what we're seeing and the mathematics of what we're seeing playing out appears to be exactly what we've more or less been saying, that there is a massive deconstruction of the old fictitious form of corporate governance through this this government superstructure that kind of crept in to the mainframe over the recent generations. That's been almost certainly decommissioned already, which is why you've got the military and the marshals on the streets in Columbia. District of Columbia is, as Robert David Steele said last night on our broadcast, the biggest open prison in the world right now, because that's almost certainly what it is. What are you going to see in the next 30 days, 45 days? That's where the interest, our focus should be placed, because we're certainly going to see an explicit technicolored deconstruction of not just the corporation government of the United States, but by extension, all of those countries that are the allies of the Biden, Clinton cabal, that a crime cartel connected to the Crown of England, connected to the Vatican, all countries that align and ally to this new fictitious office of Biden will be declaring themselves also part of that collusion exercise. So it's, in a sense, an alchemical bifurcation happening now all around the world. The trigger point was yesterday. Do not forget, a seminal piece here. There is no wriggle room in what I'm about to say. He was sworn in at 11:49 a.m. Eastern Standard, District of Columbia. That means he was sworn in 11 minutes before midday noon, which, according to Section 1 in that constitution, it says quite explicitly 12 o'clock noon is when the new president is sworn in. You cannot have two presidents at the same time. Therefore, he was not sworn in at all under rule of law. President Trump was the president and continues to be the president.
Corporate media actually portrayed that, and I was watching the BBC before I got your link and got saved, because I was just absolutely appalled with the media coverage. And I recall very vividly that they said, oh, well, it's just going to happen a little bit early, but that doesn't matter. So this is just all optics at the moment. And the media are, controlled by the white hats, I feel. And everything was just a pantomime yesterday, right from how everybody's energy was. I mean, did you see the state of everyone entering? And I mean, Lady Gaga and J-Lo, what a complete travesty. The whole thing was just abhorrent. And it just seemed, and I heard from Charlie just now that it was, pre-recorded. So there was so many, because
it looks as though it may well have been pre-recorded. That wouldn't be the first time. We could start with the lunar landings in 1969. So yeah, that kind of theatrics has been going on for many, many generations. Interesting point, obviously not lost on any of your audience, is that Gaga, that grotesquerie, was dressed up masquerading as the compere satanic moderator of the Hunger Games.
Yes.
Which again, just that old play. You're quite right to call it a pantomime, because that's what it is.
Yeah, the whole thing was diabolical, and it was eerie. The whole feeling was just weird, and especially when Obama and Michelle, I don't even think that was the real one, but you couldn't really see everyone's faces. It looked like they were all stepping into their own funeral.
Well, you don't sing Amazing Grace at anything other than a funeral. And so trust me, having Garth Brooks there in his cowboy boots and cowboy hat singing Amazing Grace, that is a funereal song. Be clear about that. There was a lot of inverse symbology taking place. So again, to those people who are attacking you, the imbeciles, they're too stupid to even work their way backwards out of a maze. Don't worry. Don't concern yourself with them.
No, as
it's not the time for naysayers. It's not the time for any of us to be having any kind of connection with naysayers. We should just place no attention on them.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I mean, to be honest, I feel a sense of responsibility. I have a lot of people following me on my Facebook. I mean, I've had my YouTube, it's almost taken down, and that's all happening. Instagram was taken down. I've been in and out of jail on Facebook. But, I have connected with a lot of people who are on this truth movement, and they're sort of bailing now in this 11th hour. And this is not the time to do that. This is the art of war. We've got so much ahead of us that's good. And I'm incredibly optimistic. But I do feel for those that are in situations where they're being ridiculed. I've been abused quite a lot. I can handle that. That's not an issue. I wouldn't have, I've made my bed, I'm laying in it. And I know this journey, as you know, the first roundtable we done, I was very new to this movement. I make no claims of being an expert or a pro. I've just followed my heart in this journey. And I think that, a lot of people who are following me are absolutely broken. And it's that kind of that heaviness that I was carrying yesterday. Anyway, dissolved all of that. And, you just try and, go on with optimism. But yesterday, it was a true testament to see where everybody's at internally. So, if you can just sort of fall very quickly with this, because the work that we've done over the last 11 months, specifically, you've been in this game, Sacha, for years, and who am I to say anything? But it was a true testament to see where everybody was at yesterday. And I really felt bad for people, especially the people that show us a lot of love and faith in us. And then it suddenly turns into, how is it my fault? Why are you blaming me?
Yeah,
but it's fine. It's okay.
Let me just give a spin to that. Yes, please. Please forgive me. I'm going to break a golden rule. I never, ever eat or drink on camera, but my mate is very kindly bringing me a coffee, which I seriously need. So please just forgive me. I'm exhausted and I've been doing nonstop. Thank you. So look, the thing I want to say is the following. As far as yesterday was concerned, it was a tremendous exercise in even further clarifying the waters of who is who and who is not in the so-called truther community. So those who needed to bifurcate away from the movement because because they're bailout merchants, or because they were, you know, just vacillating, or because they are suffering from anxiety, whatever it is, or peer pressure or familial pressure. It's okay. Peel off, peel away. The fact is that it's better to have an army of 10 strong men than 1,000 vacillating men. So I'm happier. I'm happy that yesterday was a clarification exercise. I had been saying for a couple of weeks leading up to it that I genuinely thought that the quanta of the collective will plasma would carry the day. We have so much symbolism taking place in Washington yesterday. I mean, the soldiers, thousands of them with their backs turned to the presidential motorcade. That's never happened before in history, under any circumstance. So those things simply do not take place. Those were all purposeful. They were symbolic. Counter inversion logic is now being played out on the flickering screens in order to let those of us who are aligned with the truth of the matter know it's all good. That speeches by Trump at the Andrews Air Force Base and his very final send-off words were extraordinarily beautiful, incredibly composed. That's a man who's absolutely in control of his game. So again, people, if you're focusing on the corporate seals, the presidential seal, the oaths of office, and all of that as part of the chicanery, the witchery, and frankly, the fraud that we've been subjected to generationally by the corporation government. It's a goddamn godless fraud. That Bible means nothing, means nothing. That was pure heresy going on there. That the oath means nothing. Old gibbering sniffer sitting at the presidential desk and signing those first executive orders.
White House. It looked like a studio.
Right. Well, all of it is immaterial. My point being, it's all immaterial. We mustn't place our attention even further into satanic symbology. We're being invited to do so. Don't do it. Don't make that tremendous mistake. We're going to see either Trump announcing the Patriot Party and bifurcating the whole of America into a new political game and playing field, which would be a very healthy thing. The old, party politics, binary game of Republican, Democrat, that was two horses owned by the same stable for the last half a century since they popped JFK. Disgusting. No one wants that game anymore. We're all revolted by party politics and partisanship. And all that goes on in Congress and Senate. It's all sophistry and deception. We know that. We feel it. We're disgusted by it. I mean, Tucker Carlson's broadcast was brilliant this morning. Just saying, how many times are we expected to look at, how many times are we now expected to look at the theatrics of politics and still believe it and actually take it seriously? He said it's like watching the village idiot vomit over himself time and time and time again. That's what the village idiot does. He vomits on himself. Don't be so shocked by the 1,000th time. At what point, the question becomes, do you remove your attention from the town idiot vomiting on himself?
Yeah, it's really obvious at the moment where people are at, in their sentiment. I mean, this has just brought out so much viciousness, and it's just unnecessary. The lack and the ignorance, the lack of knowledge about what's going on is very, very telling right now, Sacha. I mean, you were talking about satanic rituals happening right in front of our face and we don't even realize it. And this is just the height of ignorance and people looking at everything from a 3D lens. And this is the real issue here. And this is... Stop.
I'm sorry, Alpa, to do this to you. I know it's rude, but I have to stop you there because you're wrong. It's the opposite of what you've just said. The satanic symbols are playing out, but we are seeing them. That's the point. We are seeing them.
We know this.
Well, we, all of it. Look, forget the great unwashed. Honestly, fuck them. They're irredeemable, irretrievable. You're not going to convince those people who've already determined that wearing masks against reason is a good, healthy thing. Or that government is here to protect and look after us, or that sending your kids off to get shot in the face in the trenches is a good patriotic act. So, just that is an old story. Let's just walk away from it. I personally am not putting any further life plasma attention or force into the deviancy of our species. I'm only now interested in saying, behold, I bear witness, I see what I see, I know what I know, I feel what I feel, and I am the am. I am the I am. I am the one who will enact, embody, and manifest. So we should really be seeding now. This is the time to be seeding and not to again be pulled back into those old torsion energetic fields.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I was really looking forward to this chat with you. You know, I thought we'd be singing on a different hymn sheet, but hey, this is where we are. And, you know, it is what it is. And I think you made a very important point earlier on, is the next 30, 40 days, Sacha, that we need to be focusing on and seeing how this is going to evolve. And, you know, where do you see this going now? I mean, there's just so much going on, and all the optics, and you're looking at things like grassroots. But yeah, I think you've just hit on a very important point, that the next 30, 40 days are incredibly important at how everything evolves. And, you know, we need to keep our shit together.
Well, you've got military occupation already in District of Columbia. So Washington, D.C. is a privately owned corporation. It's a principality, has its own rules. It's a sovereign soil, sovereign territory. So in real terms, what you're looking at is the military have moved in and taken occupation because they recognize that Washington, District of Columbia, is actually a foreign power. So America has been invaded by a foreign power. The foreign power is Washington, D.C., with Congress and with the Chinese Communist Party and all of those elements written into the matrix now and the DNA of Washington, D.C. The military is non-partisan. It is a completely independent organ, and it has moved in. That's what that theatric was all about, having tens of thousands of soldiers. All of the hardware moving in was letting the deep state globally know, which is the Crown of England, the Crowns of Europe, the Bilderbergers, the Davos contingent, the Vatican complex, the Bank of International Settlements in Basel, all of those transnational cultural Marxist, Fabianist idents and icons that are all connected to the deep state. They were being put on notice. Essentially, that's why we saw so much mobilization of troops on the ground. They're not going anywhere soon. No. So as far as I'm concerned, the next 30 days, 40 days, I still think between the 1st and the 4th or 5th of April is really D-Day.
Yeah, and there's still...
I'm not kicking the football down the road by saying that. I've said that for some weeks leading up to yesterday.
Yeah, you have. And the troops are still there. And like, if the election is all legit, you know, well, why wouldn't Biden actually deploy them now and tell them to bugger off? You know,
no, because he's not the commander-in-chief. Again, you can't have two presidents. Trump is still the president proper, even of the old paradigm. And he's also in the wings, clearly the populist choice as president of the new Confederated Constitutional Republic of America, which is about to be reinstated and reenacted. So either right now you've got Trump playing people who are writing to me and saying, oh, you know, I'm doing the scrying and the remote viewing, and I'm seeing Janus, the two-headed god, come up in the cards. Yeah, absolutely. Trump is, in that sense, Janus, the two-headed king, because he's president on both sides of the indivisible line right now. That's my take.
Yeah. How do you see corporate media now playing out then in the next few weeks?
It's already dead. I know, because we got more eyeballs on my stream last night than many of the mainstream channels were getting.
Of course,
so go figure. Go figure.
It was a saving grace, honestly, because I messaged you after as well. I said, had I not watched that, I think I would have gone into that spell of the BBC where I thought, oh God, this is crazy. Because again, assuming that it was live coverage, this is it. And then afterwards, you know, we jump to conclusions. You know, we think, okay, this was live. And then it wasn't until Charlie told me this morning. He goes, well, I got, you know, a call at 7 in the morning and it was sent to me, and I showed it to 2,000 of my Patreons or whatever he does every morning. So, you know, this was that, but the corporate media now portraying this as the reality, this transition into getting the, you know, the masses awakened. We've got a bit of a journey ahead of us, Sacha.
Yes, but it's all good. Again, it depends entirely on your perspective. So we can either position ourselves as an apocalyptician or as an ascensionist. And I've always been incredibly anchored in the knowing that I determine the outcome. I see only perfection. I see only perfect geometry, even in the kind of chaos we were watching, the orchestrated chaos we were watching yesterday. I see it as all perfect geometry. I'm learning so much just by bearing witness and not being psycho-emotionally identified with any short-term outcome, because the war is already won. The battle is almost certainly already won. It's just getting the broad sweep of consciousness aligned and calibrated into this new waveform. That's the interesting thing. That 15 to 20% of liberal intellectual, essentially idiots, who control the technocracy of reality. They control Congress, they control the banking fraternity, they control media, and they control social media. So they have always inhabited and been the beneficiaries of the status quo. So that 15 to 20% in Manhattan and in Bel Air are the class who have always been the prime beneficiaries of the blood sports, the blood cult, and the dream spell of ages. That's delightful. Their game is already over. And what we were seeing yesterday was the last febrile, attempt by the old wizard behind the curtain, pounding on his Wurlitzer organ before the curtain is parted. And finally we see, yes, we all get who Gaga is. We all get who Barack Obama is. We all get all of these archetypes. They are so repugnant to good humans. Absolutely. I felt more for the soldiers. Yes. Indeed, they had to stand there with a straight face. Yes. I felt really sorry because so many of them would love to turn their guns.
Yeah. Well, no, I had people sending me pictures of Gaga with the military soldiers and J-Lo, and I just nearly wanted to throw up. And I think, again, just going back to the fact that I'm sat here with you today in this sort of optimistic mood, I just knew that because I had two other shows booked after this, and they had to bail on me because they themselves just could not, go through this energy, and it is a heavy energy, and I get it, and we just got to ride the wave, ride the rainbow wave, as I call it, and really sort of stand tall in the face of adversity. And this is where it gets fun, and this is a true testament of yourself and your own inner resolve. I get that. I get all of that. I get the whole lateral sort of viewpoints and everyone and their sort of mindsets. But today, where I think speaking to you is very important because you have the knack of encouraging people and actually lifting people, and as you said, ascending and lifting people's spirits, and your sense of humor is on point and was on point yesterday, and that made the whole viewing of this pantomime a lot more bearable. So thank you for that, Sacha.
Thank you for your kind words. So see what's happening now as an evolutionary step from what we saw leading up to yesterday. So whereas good humans in the military intelligence community around Donald Trump, aided and abetted by other world leaders like Vladimir Putin, who are absolutely on side. I'm certain of this in my own mind. It may even be that Boris Johnson is very on side with this as well in the United Kingdom, incidentally. And others like Xi Jinping, believe it or not, in China. Okay, we do not understand the behind the curtain dynamics of what has been set into play. So it's like this. Really clever guys probably got together in the back room with very, very big cigars some time ago and went, okay, the jig is up. We have 200 corporation governments. We've got a quadrillion-dollar global financial Ponzi scheme, which is about to implode in on itself. The jig is up. People of the world will find this out. They will turn on the corporation. They will turn on the parent corporation. They will turn on the crown, the Vatican, and there will be absolute pandemonium when people of the world realize instantaneously that they've been defrauded and that they've been invited to defraud themselves through paying taxes and through all of the penalties and all the punitive bullshit that comes out of governments, all of the enslavement, all of the, just sheer indignity of being a human citizen today in the 20th and 21st century. When I think these guys said, we have to really look to bring about a deconstruction of the parent corporation planetarily. It could even be and I'm not suggesting this, and don't come at me saying I'm an apologist, but it could even be that the Bilderbergers of this world have also, in the last couple of years, been in the bunker going, oh my God, we have to deconstruct the parent corporation to mitigate the damage. And they realized that they were given a period of time and grace in which to do so. Now, what I'm saying makes a great deal of sense to a political strategist, okay? Anyone who understands political strategy or art of war knows that what I'm saying is very, very sound. Yeah. The Vatican complex itself went into foreclosure on the 1st of April, 2013. Fact. Under Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, if any of you in the truther community can remember my blessed friend Heather Tucci and Giraffe and the trustees who put the House of Rothschild into check late in 2012. They gave 90 days notice under the highest iteration and expression of universal law. They called out the parent corporation, which was essentially the Crown of England, okay, and the Vatican, the House of Rothschild. And 90 days came and went without any rebuttals. The law was absolute. The 1st of April, which was 90 days after those papers had been served in the square mile of London, and I know very well who the trustees are. I know them, and I know what they did on that day. That was fateful. 90 days later, it is a fact under law, under the rules of their engagement, their own rules of engagement. They went into foreclosure. The reason why the Pope fled the Vatican, I'm talking about Ratzinger now, fled, was because the jig was up at that time for the Vatican. So the Jesuit Pope, the Black Papacy, essentially the Jesuitical element was brought to the front of house and told, right, now you will participate in the soft demolition of your own artifice, your own fiction. You've got X years to do it in. That almost certainly has been happening. So the disclosure of pedophile rings and the crimes of the Vatican over ages has actually been surfacing through this papacy of this grotesque creature, this Jesuit Pope. Can't remember his name. But the point I'm making is that has been happening in different parts of the world. I think you'll find with the Crown of England similarly, certainly since Trump went there on his state visit, and there was so much symbolism enshrined in that visit where he went around the world and put NATO in check, put the Vatican in check, and put all of those powers and principalities in check, Israel and so on. Why? Because the NSA had all the dirty files on everyone. And I do believe that that stands. And I do believe that Trump, wherever he is carrying with him the power base, the true power base, not the fictitious one, because there is a real power base and then there's a corporate fiction theatrical one. We're now seeing those two bifurcate away. Up until this point, they've always been the same element. They've always been in conjunction. Now they're pulling away. This is the true bifurcation, is the separation of the living from the dead, the masked from the unmasked, okay, the organic from the inorganic. That's actually what's playing out if we stop playing into the psycho-intellectual drama of who did what and what said who and what's going to happen tomorrow. No, not important. Wrong questions, wrong question, people. The real shit is, what are you able to observe and bear witness to in the subtle body, in the energetic field of what's taking place? We know CNN is a goddamn propaganding, lying machine. We know the same of BBC. We know the same of Reuters. We know that academia, Oxford, Yale, all the Ivy League are all in a historical collusion exercise to mind fuck us out of true knowledge. So dispense with all of it in that case. Why are we paying any attention to it? I still say this is the time for seeding. This is the time for my will be done. I'm very, very empowered today by what happened yesterday.
Thank you. And I can feel that. And it's very important what you said, because when I started this journey, Sacha, I kept it very simple. I'm not very politically astute, and nor do I have any interest in it. I sort of go internal, and you know this, and I don't listen and convolute my brain with all my energy with nonsense. However, the most important fundamental point for me that stuck out was that the NSA have everything. they have access to everything, and they've got all the shit and dirt on everybody. So therefore, this is kind of operating back to front, and how it pans out and how it plays out. And then you've got everyone in the truth community all sort of, you know, going here, there and everywhere. And it's been fun. It's been a great journey. But when we come back to self and actually sort of quieten the mind, and you can stick to the main important facts, which is the NSA have it all. And if they have everything, and if the governments have capitulated to Trump, then we are just literally puppets ourselves, watching how this unfolds, and remaining in our sort of authentic space and in our high vibrations, because this is the most fundamental important thing today, with everybody's energies going really, really low, and people who are cancelling on me that are in the truth community that are feeling this. So I'm really glad to hear that, because this
Alpa, let me add to what you just said, because we are exactly as you described it, in this state of flux, but we are being given now the extension of grace to be able to all make our own determinations about where our psionic intelligence sits, where we know, where we feel to be. Put it this way, maybe it is going to be as technicolored as Trump establishing a new political party and saying, hey, I'm establishing now the Constitutional Republic of the United States. It's a new government. It's going to be registered at Trump Tower or at Mar-a-Lago. Who's with me? Well, curiously enough, I think you'd find 80% of Americans would be with him. So all of a sudden, by the will of the people and the consensus, he would be able to incorporate or reinstate the original form of government as envisioned by the founding fathers of America. And he would be doing so legitimately, without a coup, without him having been the hard man and send in the guns, which he could have done. He didn't do it. He wanted, and the white hats wanted, this transition to be one that is organic and sentient and conscious, because they are smart enough by now, again, through the art of war, to know that a conscious, sentient, organic movement toward a new order is going to be the most peaceable one with the least collateral damage. And that, to my mind, is incredibly benevolent and incredibly intelligent. So it looks to me as though that's the kind of scenario we're about to see. If any of you listening to this show remember what Steve Bannon did, coming on that boat, moored not too far from where the Statue of Liberty was, and he had that Chinese gentleman next to him. It was sundown at sunset, and they declared the new Republic of China, the people's, you know, for the people, not the communists. Essentially, they made a declaration on a boat, which was on the waters. Okay, this was not subject to the jurisdiction of China or anyone else. It was very clever what they did. They did that from a boat. Go back and check out what Steve Bannon did that day. In a sense, it was a token. It was a symbol of what we're about to see Donald Trump do on the land, because he can do it. Why can he do it? Because the criminals themselves are enclosed in their own fictitious jurisdiction, which is District of Columbia, a false light principality. So they are the foreign enemy. Donald Trump is the living man on the American soil, representing the pulse of middle America. He knows he's got 80% of America with him. So if he stands and declares, I am, under the universal gaze of God, going to be establishing a new order of government in alignment with the founding fathers in the original constitutional republic, all those in favor say aye, peaceably, without guns. Well, 80% of Americans are going to move there. What happens at that point? You see, I'm suggesting to the truther community who are looking in, it is always a much bigger play going on, but you're only ever going to see it if you're in a state of grace yourself. So don't get downhearted and don't get psycho-emotionally identified to anything that happens whatsoever. Bear witness always in a state of grace and always with a sense of joy, because all of this is fucking theater. It's delightful.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that sense of exuberance inside and joyfulness. And I went on live last night and I sort of accepted a bit of responsibility. I myself got carried away with the whole, you know, the pantomime of it all to a certain degree. And it was when I thought to myself, I thought, hang on a minute, we're all sort of bombarding each other on Facebook or through our social media channels with this information and this anticipation of this happening and the arrests that are going to happen, etc. Hang on a minute, Alpa. Whoa, slow down, right? Because this is a very clever military operation. Would we have this? Would we be privy to this level of information banding around? I mean, come on, common sense sort of went through me and I went, oh my God, you idiot. Right?
I'll give you an example. I was contacted 2-3 weeks ago by Delta Force operatives, okay, giving me the inside scoop, all right? And these are people I know and trust, and they've given me seriously good information in the past, going back not quite, about 12, 13 years. I know these sources. I trust these guys. These are hard men. I trust them. I love them. They were giving me inside scoop 2-3 weeks ago, leading up to the election, or just after the election, leading up to the Electoral College and leading up to the US Supreme Court, the Electoral College, and Pence's U-turn in the Senate. And their information was absolutely the opposite of what happened. Now, they were inviting me to drop that information. I said, no, not going to do it. Why not? I said, because I believe here that you guys, although I know and love and trust you, you are the utility right now of a double disinfo game. Exactly. And because the white hats are using you to use me to put disinfo out there because they're still trying to contain the game. And I said, that's great. I respect you. I respect them, but fuck you both. I'm not doing it because I've got a different psionic barometer right now. I'm taking a different reading of where we're at. And I'm delighted I didn't do it, but that is what I follow. That's why I didn't go on and make any explicit broadcasts about the arrests are going to take place. I would have loved to have seen that personally, but no, too dangerous to. When we're in this game, we are absolutely the utility of invisible masters. And I don't like Jesuits at the best of times, black hats, white hats, pink hats. I'm not interested in being the utility of that. You know?
No, and that's brilliant. That is exactly what I thought yesterday. I said, Alpa, you've just fallen into the trap. You and yourself know that everything's okay. You're just waiting to see how it unfolds. I make no claims of knowing anything. I start off my show saying I know nothing. I like speaking to people like yourself. And within this truther community, you know, we're evolving every single day, progressing spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And that's what we've got to keep, you know, together as ourselves, keep our shit together. But I have to admit, I was like a little bit like, oh, I really wanted to see the arrest happen, because it's that kind of that sense of justice that we wanted to feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people living in that hope and wanting to see these assholes, like, you know, put to justice in front of everybody by the corporate media. And there was all of that sentiment that was going around. But when I sort of said to myself afterwards, I said, Alpa, come on, are they going to really, you know, they are watching everything all of us are doing. Think about it, you know, with what's going on with everybody being shut down and people's accounts being disabled on Facebook and being deplatformed, Sacha.
It's all white. It's all white noise. It's all white noise. Look, well, forget the art of war. Forget the art of war. What about the art of love? What about the art of lovemaking? Any man who's half baked in lovemaking can tell you, you bring a woman almost to climax and then you withdraw. And then you bring her almost to climax again and then you withdraw. That's all that's going on here. I understand that you're a virgin, have never been sullied, but most women will know what I'm talking to. So that's all that's going on. Like I said, be joyful with these contractions and these expansions. They're part of a beautiful process, you know.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Definitely agree with you there. And I think it's the next 30, 40 days are really important, keeping ourselves aligned with self and happy and joyful. And I think it's a good place to end here now on that note, because, you know, we don't want to get so encompassed with the trivialities of, you know, this happened and posting this on Facebook, or, you know, and I'm guilty of it myself. You know, I've enjoyed the journey and I've made some wonderful connections and it's just been an enjoyable journey. And we've just got to, you know, withhold ourselves and stand tall in the face of this minor adversity that we're going through in an exuberant way.
Well, you know, I think it's fine to look squarely at your followers and also your detractors and say, hey, I've positioned myself and purposed myself in the last year in service to my brothers and sisters and in service to the inquiry of pure truth, because I genuinely care. And I care enough to put my resources, my time and my energy and my motion toward that inquiry. And that's it, and take it or leave it. But that's it. And anyone, again, who comes at you is standing in dishonor and ought to be ashamed. All my brothers and sisters in the Truther community, half of whom I disagree with vehemently on their approach and how they come at it, I still embrace and love them and salute them and thank them for it.
That's really important, Sacha. You know, that sense of unity consciousness. We can agree to disagree, but love in action every single day, and how we treat each other, which is the most important thing. And you know, I love you, so thank you so much for today, Sacha. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. God bless.